Part 1. From San Francisco to London when I was 27 years old. I worked in an office in San Francisco. I did my job well and my future was bright. I was alone in the world and I was happy on Saturday afternoons. I didn't work. I sailed my little sailboat on San Francisco Bay one Saturday afternoon. I sailed out too far. The strong afternoon wind pushed my sailboat out of the bay into the Pacific. That night, when I was feeling pretty hopeless, a small British brig saw me and took me on board. The brig was sailing to London. The voyage was long and stormy. I worked as a sailor to pay for my trip. When I arrived in London, my clothes were old and dirty. I only had $1 in my pocket. I spent the first 24 hours eating and sleeping. During the next 24 hours, I didn't eat and didn't sleep. At about 10, the next morning, I went to Portland Place. I saw a child walking past holding a big piece of pie. The child ate one small piece and then threw the pear onto the street. I stopped and looked at it. I was very hungry and really wanted that pie, but every time I tried to get it, someone passed by and looked at me. I quickly turned in the other direction and waited for the person to pass by. I tried again and again to get that pear, but the same thing happened. I was getting desperate. I decided to get the pear and not to worry about the people who saw me at that moment. A kind gentleman opened a window behind me and said, "Come in here, please." A kind servant opened the door and led me to a beautiful room. There, two old gentlemen were sitting and discussing something important. Their breakfast was on the table, and I was very hungry. I couldn't help but stare at their breakfast. I want to tell you, dear reader, that the two gentlemen had made a bet several days before. I didn't know about the bet until later. Let me tell you what happened. Part 2. An unusual bet. The two old gentlemen were brothers. They had been arguing about a very strange subject. They decided to end their argument with a bet, as the English usually do. The following was the subject of the bet: the bank. The Bank of England issued £2 million notes for a public transaction with a foreign country. England used one and kept the other in the bank. At this point, Brother A said to Brother B, "If an honest and intelligent stranger arrives in London without a friend and without money except for the £1 million bank note, he'll unfortunately end up starving to death." Brother B replied, "Oh, I don't think that's a good idea." Brother A said, "If he goes to the bank or anywhere else to try to change this big note, the police will put him in prison. Everyone will think he stole it." They continued chatting for days until finally, Brother B said, "I'll bet 20,000 that the stranger will live for 30 days with the bank note and not go to prison." Brother A accepted the bet. He went to the bank and bought the £1 million bank note. After he returned home and prepared a letter, the two brothers sat by the window and waited for the right man for the bet. They saw a lot of honest faces go by, but they were not intelligent enough. Several faces were intelligent but not honest. A lot of faces were honest and intelligent. Some were intelligent but not poor enough. Others were honest and intelligent but not strangers. When they saw me from the window, they thought I was the right man. They asked me questions and soon they knew my story. Finally, they told me I was the right white man for the bet. I asked them to explain the bet. One of the gentlemen gave me an envelope. He said, "Don't open it now. Wait until you are in your hotel room. Then read." I was confused and a little hurt, but I didn't want to make a fuss. I thought I'd wait until I was back at my hotel room to discuss the bet with them. When I left their house, I looked for the pair on the street, but they were gone. I was a little cross with those two gentlemen, but I didn't want to make a scene. I opened the envelope and saw that there was money inside. I didn't stop to read their letter. I ran to the nearest eating place and ate and ate and ate. At last I took out the envelope. With the money to pay for my meal, I looked at the bank note and was so surprised I almost fainted. It was a bank note worth $5 million. I was speechless. I stared at the bank note, and the two gentlemen had made a big mistake. They probably wanted to give me a £1 bank note. I saw the owner of the eating place staring at the bank note too, and we were both surprised. I didn't know what to do or say, so I simply gave him the note and said, "Give me the change, please." The owner apologized, and I was so grateful. 1,000 times, "I'm very sorry, but I can't change this bank note, sir. I don't have any other money. Please change this note." The owner then said, "You can pay for this food whenever you want, sir. I understand that you are a very rich gentleman. You like playing jokes on people by dressing like a poor man. You can come here and eat all you want whenever you want. You can pay me when you want." I was so nervous when I arrived at the house of the two gentlemen. The same servant opened the door, and I asked for the two gentlemen. "They're gone," the servant said. "Gone? Where?" "Oh, on a journey." "But where did they go?" "The continent." "Yes, sir." "When will they return?" "In a month." "Oh, this is awful. How can I talk to them?" "It's extremely important." "I can't help you." "I don't know where they are, sir." "Then I must see a member of the family." "Unfortunately, all the family are away, they're in Egypt and India." I think before leaving, the two gentlemen made an enormous mistake. They will certainly return home tonight. Please tell them that I came here to correct the mistake. I will return tomorrow. I'll tell them if I see them, but I won't see them. Sir, please don't worry. Everything is all right. They will be here on time, and they will see you then. Goodbye. Oh, I was confused. My head was all over the place. I was in a bit of a daze. I didn't quite understand what the servant was saying. Then I remembered the letter. It said, "You are an intelligent and honest man. You are also poor and a stranger in this envelope. You will find some money. It is yours for 30 days. At the end of 30 days, return to this house. I have a bed for you. If I win this bet, you can have any job with any salary that you want." There were no signature, no address, no date on the letter. How strange. I didn't know. What to do? Well, I went to a park and sat down to think. After an hour, I made up my mind. I followed the two old gentlemen to a game I didn't understand. They were betting on me, but I didn't know the details of the bet. If I went to the Bank of England to return the bank note, they'd ask me lots of questions. If I told the truth, no one would believe me. They'd put me in an asylum. I just can't tell anyone because no one will believe me. I'm stuck. I can only do one thing. I must keep the bill for a whole month and I must not lose it. If I help the old man win his bet, he will give me the job I want. The idea of an important job with a big salary made me really happy. I began walking down the streets of London, Part 4 at the tailor. Every time I passed in front of a tailor, I thought about the exciting idea in my mind. I was really hoping to get some new clothes, but I didn't have any money to pay for them. The £1 million bank note in my pocket wasn't going to help me out. I walked past the same tailor 6 times before I finally went in. I was really hoping they'd have an old, unattractive suit that no one wanted to buy. The man I spoke to nodded his head, but he didn't speak. Then another man looked at me and nodded his head. I went to him, and he said, "One moment please." After some time, he led me to a back room where he showed me several suits that, let's just say, weren't exactly the epitome of style. He picked out the ugliest one for me. I was really hoping to get a suit, but I bit my tongue. It was time to pay, but I didn't have the exact change on me. The man was really nice about it. He said, "Oh, you haven't." I thought maybe fancy places like this had a lot of cash on hand. My friend and I had a good laugh about it. I told him, "You can't judge a stranger by the clothes he wears." I said I could pay for the suit, but could he change a large bank note? He said, "Of course." "Change a large bank note," he said, his voice cold. I gave him the bank note, and he received it with a big smile that covered his face when he read the bank note. His smile disappeared, and the owner of the shop came over and asked me what the trouble was. "There isn't any trouble," I replied. "I'm waiting for my change." Come on, give him his change," Todd said, quickly. "It's easy to say," the owner answered, "but look at the bank note." He looked at the bank note, then he looked at my package. "Oh, Todd, you silly goose. How could you possibly sell this unattractive suit to a millionaire? You can't see the difference between a millionaire and a poor man, can you?" "I'm so sorry, sir. Please, take off those things you're wearing and throw them in the fire. Put on this lovely shirt and this handsome suit. It's perfect for you. Simple but elegant." I told him I was very happy with the new suit. "Oh, but wait until you see what we can make for you. In your size, Todd." "Great. Just bring a pen and a book. I'll take measurements of your leg and arm." I didn't have a moment to speak. The owner measured me, then ordered his tailor to make me morning suits, evening suits, shirts, coats, and other things. "But my dear sir," I said, "I can order all these things only if you change my bank note or if you can wait a while before I pay you." "Wait a while?" I'll wait forever. That's the word, Todd. Send these things to the gentleman's address. Let the important customers, please wait a moment. I'm changing my home, so I'll be back to give you my new address. Thank you so much for your understanding. Oh, quite right, sir. Let me show you to the door, sir. Have a wonderful day. I tried to use the bank note to get change, but it just wouldn't work. I ended up buying everything I needed and all the luxuries I wanted. I stayed at an expensive hotel in Hanover Square and always had dinner there, but I preferred having breakfast at Harris's simple eating place. Harris's was just the best. It was the first place where I had a really good meal with my £1,000,000 note, and it was all thanks to that delicious breakfast at Harris's. The news about me and my bank note was all over London. Harris's place became famous because I had breakfast there. Harris was happy with all his new customers. I lived like a rich, important man. I had money to spend and lived in a dream. But I often told myself, remember, this dream will end when the two men return to London. Everything will change. My story was in the newspapers, and everyone talked about the strange millionaire with the £1,000,000 note in his pocket. Punch magazine even drew a funny picture of me on the front page. People were so curious about me and everything I did and said. They followed me in the streets, and I loved it. I kept my old clothes, and sometimes I'd wear them. It was so much fun when the shop owners thought I was poor, then I'd show them the bank note. Oh, how their faces changed after 10 days in London. I went to visit the American ambassador, and he was so happy to meet me. The ambassador was so happy to meet me. He invited me to a dinner party that evening. He told me that he knew my father from Yale University. He invited me to visit his home whenever I wanted. I was so happy to have a new, important friend. I thought to myself, I'll need an important friend when the story of the £1,000,000. When the note and bet come out, I want the reader to know that I plan to pay back all the shop owners who sold me things on credit if I win the bet for the old gentleman. I thought, I will have an important job with a big salary. I will be able to pay everyone back with my first year's salary. The dinner party was a lovely affair, with 14 people in attendance. Among them were the Duke and Duchess of Shoreditch and their daughter, Lady and Grace Eleanor de Bohun, the Earl and Countess of Newgate, Viscount Chapside, Lord and Lady Blatherskite, the ambassador and his wife and daughter, and a few other guests. There was also a beautiful 22-year-old lady. I met an old English girl named Porcelangum. I fell in love with her in 2 minutes, and she fell in love with me after a while. The house servant presented another guest, Mr. Lloyd Hastings. When Mr. Hastings saw me, he said, "I think I know you." "Yes, you probably do. Are you the strange millionaire with the £1,000,000 note in his pocket?" Well, this is a surprise. I never thought you were the same Henry Adams from San Francisco 6 months ago. You were. I remember you working in the offices of Blake Hopkins in San Francisco. You had a very small salary, but you helped me arrange papers for the Gould and Curry Mining Company at night. Now you're a millionaire and a celebrity here in London. I can't believe it. It's so exciting. Lloyd, just 3 months ago, we went to the Miners restaurant. Or was it the What Cheer restaurant? I'm not sure, but it was the What Cheer. We went there at 2. Oh my, it's been quite a journey, hasn't it? From 00 in the morning steak and coffee to 6 long hours working on the Gould and Curry Mining Company papers. Do you remember when I asked you to come to London with me? I wanted you to help me sell the Gould and Curry gold mine shares, but you had other plans. I remember, I didn't want to leave my job in San Francisco, and I still think it's difficult to sell shares of a California gold mine. Oh, Henry, you were so right. It's impossible to sell these shares here in London. My plan failed, and I spent all my money. I don't want to talk about it, but you must talk about it when we leave the dinner party. You really need to tell me what happened. Oh, can I? I really need to talk to a friend. Lloyd said, with water in his eyes. Yes, I want to hear the whole story, every word of it. Thank you, Henry. You're such a good friend, Henry. I really appreciate it. It was time for dinner, but there was no dinner because of the English system of precedence. The Duke of Shiage wanted to sit at the head of the table, and the American ambassador also wanted to sit at the head of the table. They couldn't decide, so we didn't have dinner. The English know about the system of precedence. They have dinner before going out to dinner, but strangers. They don't know anything about it, so they ended up going all evening without eating. We had a lovely little snack of strawberries and music instead. Then it was time for everyone to play a game called cribbage. The English never play a game for fun, they play to win or to lose something. Miss Langham and I played the game, but we didn't have much interest in it. I looked at her beautiful face and said, "Miss Langham, I love you, Mr. Adams." She said softly and smiled, "I love you too." This was such a wonderful evening. Miss Langham and I were so happy, we smiled, laughed, and talked. I was honest with her. I told her that I was poor and that I didn't have a cent in the world. I explained that the £1,000,000 note was not mine. She was very curious to know more, so I told her the whole story from the start. She laughed and laughed, she thought the story was very funny. I didn't understand why it was funny, but I was happy she enjoyed it. I also told her that I needed an important job with a big salary to pay all my debts. "Portia, dear, can you come with me on the day I must meet those 2 gentlemen?" "Well, yes, if I can help you," she replied. "You can help me, Portia. You are so lovely that when the 2 gentlemen see you, I can ask for any job and any salary. With you there, my sweet Portia, the 2 gentlemen won't refuse me anything." Part 7. After the dinner party, I went back to the hotel with Hastings. He was talking about his problems, but I was thinking about Portia the whole time. When we got back to the hotel, Hastings said, "Let me just stand here and look at this wonderful hotel. It's a palace. What expensive furniture you have. Everything you want. You are rich, Henry, and I am poor." His words scared me a little. I was also in a tight spot. I didn't have a penny to my name and I had bills to pay. I really needed to win the gentleman's bet. This was my last hope. Hastings didn't know the truth. Henry, you just need to save a little bit of your income and I'll be fine. I'm really desperate. Hastings, please sit down and have a drink with me. Let me hear your whole story, every word of it. Do you want to hear my story again? I'd love to tell you more. But you never told me your story. Of course I told you my story as we walked to the hotel. Don't you remember? I didn't hear one word of it. Henry, are you feeling okay? Is something wrong? What did you drink at the dinner party? Oh, Hastings, I'm in love. I can only think about my sweet Portia. This is why I didn't hear your story before. Hastings got up from his chair, shook my hand, and laughed. I'm very happy for you, Henry, he said, smiling. I'll tell you the whole story again. So he sat down and patiently started to tell me his story. To make a long story short, the owners of the Gould and Curry gold mine sent Lloyd to England to sell the shares of the mine for $1 million. Any money he received over $1 million was his to keep. Hastings' dream was to sell the shares for more than $1 million and become rich. He had only 1 month to do it. Sell the shares. He had done everything to sell them, but nobody wanted to buy them. Then he jumped up and cried, Henry, you can help me, can't you? I'll give you $1 million. In return, I'll sell you all the shares. You'll be the new owner of the gold mine. Oh, don't refuse, he said. I didn't know what to say. I wanted to tell Hastings the truth, but then an intelligent idea came to me. I thought about it for a moment, and then I calmly said, I will save you, Lloyd. Then I am already saved. How can I thank you? Just a moment, I said, and then I'll save you, Lloyd. Then I'm already saved, so I don't know how to thank you. Let me finish, please. I'll save you, but not in that way. I have a better way. I know everything about that mine. I know its great value. You'll sell the shares using my name. You can send anyone to me, since people in London know me. I'll guarantee the gold mine in a week or 2. You'll sell the shares for $3 million by using my name, and we'll share the money you earn. You'll get half, and I'll get half. Lloyd was over the moon. He danced around the room and laughed. I can use your name. Think of it. The rich Londoners will run to buy these shares. I'm saved, and I'll never forget you, Henry. Part 8. Back to Portland Place. The next day, all of London talked about the shares of the California gold mine. I stayed. In my hotel room, I told everyone who came to me, yes, I know Mr. Hastings. He's a very honest man, and I know the gold mine because I lived in the California gold country. It is a mine of great value. People were now interested in buying the shares. I spent every evening with Portia at the American ambassador's house. I didn't tell her about the shares or the mine. It was a surprise. We talked about our love and our future together. At last, the end of the month arrived. Lots of wealthy Londoners bought shares in the mine. I had $1 million of my own in the London and County Bank, and Lloyd did too. It was time to meet with the two old gentlemen. I dressed in my best clothes and went to get Portia before going to Portland Place. Portia and I talked about the job and the salary. Portia, you are so beautiful. When the two gentlemen met you, they will give me any job and any salary I ask for. Henry, please remember that if we ask for too much, we will get nothing. Then what will happen to us? Don't be afraid, Portia. The two gentlemen were kind enough to meet with me. They told me that they would give me any job and any salary I asked for. Henry, please remember that if we ask for too much, we might not get it. What will happen to us then? Don't be afraid, Portia. When we arrived, the same servant opened the door. There were the two old gentlemen having tea. They were surprised to see Portia. I introduced her to them, and then, "Gentlemen, I am ready to report to you." "We are pleased to hear this," said one gentleman. "Now we can decide the bet that my brother Abel and I made. If you won for me, you can have any job in my power. Do you have the £1 million note here, sir?" I asked. "Yes, I have it right here," he replied, handing it to me. "I won," he shouted. "Well, now, what do you say, Abel?" I asked. "I say he survived, and I lost £2, he replied. "I can't believe it. I have so much more to tell you, but it's quite a long story. I'll tell you all about it another time. For now, look at this. It's a certificate of deposit for £200. "Oh, is it yours?" "It's mine. I earned it by using the bank note you lent me for a month." This is astonishing. I can't believe it, but Portia looked at me with surprise and said, "Henry, is that really your money? You didn't tell me the truth, did you?" "Oh, no, I didn't. But I know you'll forgive me." "Oh, don't be so sure. You told me a little white lie, Henry, dearest Portia. It was only a bit of fun. Come on, let's go now." "But wait," my dear gentleman said, "I want to give you the job and the salary you choose." Thank you, with all my heart, but I don't want the job." "Henry, you didn't thank the good gentleman. If I may, I would like to do it for you," Portia said. "Of course you can." My dear, Portia walked to my gentleman, sat on his lap, and kissed him on the mouth. Then the two old gentlemen shouted and laughed. I was amazed at what was happening. Papa said, "Portia, Henry doesn't want." "Oh, sweetheart, I'm so sorry to hear that." "Is that your father?" I asked. "Yes, he's my stepfather, a wonderful man. I hope you understand why I laughed when you told me your story. I said I want to take back what I said. There is a job that I want to tell you about. I want to be your son." "Oh, my dear friend, you were never a son-in-law." "Oh, before I forget, do you know how to do this job? I'd love to give you a chance to show me what you can do. I'd be happy to give you 30 or 40 years to prove yourself. If you're up to the task, I'd be delighted to have you on board." Portia and I are happy, and we're not afraid to say it. We're so happy, in fact, that we're bursting at the seams. When the Londoners heard the whole story of my adventures with the bank note, they couldn't stop talking about it. Portia's father took the bank note back to the bank. He took it to England and cashed it, then gave us the cancelled bank note as a wedding present. We put it in a picture frame and hung it on the wall in our new home. So I always say, yes, it's £1,000,000 bank note, but it only bought one thing in its life, the most valuable thing in the world, Portia. The voiceover in this video is given by English 5 Days Copying or just a heads up, uploading is totally forbidden. Thanks.